If you are a business owner who is juggling everything, tight deadlines, competing priorities, and drowning in the day-to-day running of your business, so much so that you feel like you're not in control of your time anymore, despite your best efforts to create and to stick to a to-do list. If that sounds like you, I'd like to show you how to take back control of your week without drowning in the day-to-day grind so that you can spend more time on work that lights you up and less time in your inbox. Even if you struggle with time management or procrastination, or you are your only employee, I also want you to stick around because you're going to discover how to use a simple color-coded planning system that is going to help you break free from the busyness hamster wheel. And it's going to rewire the way you work and live so that you can shift out of the daily grind. However, the number one thing that I want you to take away from this video is that the best way to avoid getting bogged down in the day-to-day is to actually map out your year first and then your week. You need to get ahead of the busyness to think clearly and to make good decisions. And I know right now the idea of mapping out your year might feel big, overwhelming, time-consuming, and you might be thinking, how? How am I supposed to plan next year when I don't even know what's happening tomorrow? But here's the truth. You don't have to predict next year. You don't have to know every detail and have it figured out. You don't even need to know exactly what's coming. In fact, it's better if you don't. What you do need is to get out ahead of your schedule, because as long as you're planning from inside the busyness, you're planning from survival mode. And survival mode cannot create any new results. When you're stuck in the day-to-day, you're answering emails, you're reacting to client needs, you're handling all of the team issues, doing the work that keeps everything moving. You're not in a mental state that can imagine anything different. You're just drowning. You're putting out one fire after another, and you are doing your best just to keep up. Even when you try to plan your week, you're still planning from inside the grind, from inside the noise, from inside the same thoughts and patterns that got you exactly where you are right now. Which means no matter how good your intentions are, you end up just recreating the exact same cycle. Busy weeks, crowded schedules, and zero space for your brilliance. And I want to be really clear here. This is not a personal failing. It's biology and psychology. Research from cognitive science shows that when your brain is under just constant demand, emails, messages, tasks, decisions, your prefrontal cortex shuts down up to 70% of its creative capacity. That means less clarity, less of that big picture thinking, and less ability to imagine future possibilities, anything different. Studies also show the average professional checks their email or their notifications once every 6 to 8 minutes. That level of interruption, it's training your brain to live in reaction mode, not visionary mode. And when you're overloaded, your brain naturally just recycles familiar solutions. It defaults to what you've always done. It repeats the same patterns because it doesn't have capacity for anything new. And that is why weekly planning alone, which I'm a huge fan of, but alone isn't enough. You're trying to redesign your life while you're standing in the middle of the fire. But when you shift your thinking into a future moment, even a year or two ahead, something powerful happens. The rainbow effect. Your brain lifts out of survival mode. Your nervous system settles. You access your imagination, clarity, and possibility. You can see a different reality because you're not staring at the flames that are right in front of you. Mapping out your year isn't about controlling the future. It's about creating or unlocking the mental and emotional space your brain needs to think clearly. make better decisions, and imagine a life beyond where you are that is not dictated by busyness. And once you see it, you can build it. If you want to access this rainbow state, you need more than good intentions, highlighters, stickers, and a pretty planner to make it work. You need a planning method to create a big picture map of your year, a clear sense of your seasons, your priorities, your capacity, and the work that you really want to spend the time doing. And when you color code, your year comes alive. I call this the rainbow effect, as I said, and it's what happens when I teach people my annual color coding ritual inside your Breakthrough Year course. I teach it towards the beginning because once you start to see beyond the year that you're in, and your energy and your ideas begin to spark, you're to create a better plan for the next year, a plan focused on change, because change is going to create a breakthrough year and pull you out of repeating and regurgitating the same busyness so that you can create the space for your greatness, that work that really lights you up like a rainbow, because it lights up your imagination. It turns a calendar into a vision you can actually feel. It's 100 times more powerful than a vision statement or a vision board, since you're not just hoping or wishing, you're actually seeing your future in what feels like 4 dimension. When you lay your year out in color, something shifts. Your brain lifts out of survival mode. Your imagination switches back on. You start to see patterns, possibilities, seasons, capacity, alignment, things you simply couldn't see when you're just stuck inside the day-to-day grind. This is the rainbow effect. And it's the missing link between, I hope next year is different, and I can actually see and believe that I'm creating something different next year. Now, I have a whole lesson on this in my Breakthrough Year training, but I'm going to go over the basics in this video because this is my most popular workshop I teach. And every time I teach it, everyone always walks away with aha moments and insights that dramatically shift how they're planning and running their weeks after they learn how to color code their year. What I'm teaching today didn't come from theory or textbooks. It came from hitting a brick wall so hard that it changed my life. For years, I was just overflowing with ideas, big ones, brilliant ones, and they were all competing for my time and attention. I took action every single day, lots of action, but the harder I worked, the more behind I felt. I pushed myself past every limit, held myself to these impossible standards, and I lived in that awful place of feeling like I was taking 1 step forward and 10 steps back. And then my body made the decision for me. I crashed so badly that I spent months in bed while doctors scratched their head. I had nothing left. I could no longer out hustle my own exhaustion. And that moment forced me to ask a question I had avoided my whole life. What do I really want? Up until that point, I thought I knew, but the truth was, I was living on autopilot, busy in the moment, responsive, overwhelmed, and completely disconnected from the future that I wanted to design for myself. My clarity was gone, my passion was buried, and my addiction to busyness had taken over in ways that I couldn't ignore anymore. And when I finally got sober from my busyness and my alcohol addiction, it felt like I was waking up from a really long sleep. My senses turned back on, my desires started to come back, and suddenly there was space, real space to hear myself again. But the space alone wasn't enough. I still needed a system. I wanted to create a ritual, a way to design my days intentionally so I wouldn't slide back into the old routine. So I went on a mission. I read every productivity book I could find, and I spent, oh my goodness, over $100,000 on masterminds, coaching, and systems. And I interviewed more than 100 people. I experimented with every single planner, habit tracker, philosophy, framework, and methodology out there. And some of them were just too rigid. Some of them felt too loosey-goosey, and many of them were way too complicated. Nothing worked for me. Nothing ignited my passion, my imagination, until I decided to build my own. And the system and the practice that I created helped me reclaim my life. I wrote 3 best-selling books. I spoke on stages, won awards for my speaking. I was able to shift out of the busyness and find the space and the time to be in my zone of brilliance, to doing the work that lit me up. As I worked with more and more women, I started seeing the same pattern that I'd lived through. They didn't need more willpower. They were ambitious. They were smart. They didn't need more motivation. They didn't need more time, even though often they thought they did. They needed clarity. They needed to know what they wanted and to claim it and to design their time in alignment with that. That is how the rainbow effect began and the color coding system was born. Now, I promised you I'd give you the basics of the system so that you can start to create your own rainbow effect. In the full lesson, I go much deeper, but here's the stripped down simple version to get you started. Step 1, you want to choose your colors. Each color represents a different type of time: client time, CEO time, creative work, revenue work, money-making activities, recharge, strategy, etc. You're not choosing tasks. You're choosing categories that matter to the life you want. Now, inside the full lesson, I'll walk you through the exact color framework I use and the specific categories. And I explain why those categories are so important, especially around working in and on your business. It's very important that you start to differentiate and understand the difference between those two types of activities, as that is ultimately going to be the key for you to create the growth and change in your business and your life. Step 2, you want to start looking at how much time you actually want to spend in each of the categories. If you had a magic wand, if you were able to release yourself from the clutches of your responsibilities and really begin to design a schedule that feels like the life that you want to live. Now, this isn't based on how much time you need to spend on your work. If you have a magic wand and you can design that ideal year that you would like to live. And a lot of people, when I point this out, don't hear the word ideal and they just start mapping out their schedule. That's not what this exercise is about. How many days do you really want to work? How many hours? How many clients do you want to see, or how many sessions feel aligned with the perfect schedule? Like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, you can start to experiment in color on the calendar. And when you do, you'll start to know exactly when you hit the sweet spot. When will you do your big thinking, your creative visionary time? How will you recharge, and how will your recharge time fit into your ideal year so that you can keep your momentum going instead of binging and burning out? Just building in recharge time, that alone can shift an entire year. And in the full lesson, I show you not only how to map this out in the categories, but how to calculate this in a way that will instantly reveal what's been draining you and what has been missing. Step 3, you're going to color the calendar before you add anything else. So this is the magic. You take what you learned from asking the questions in step 1 and step 2, and now you're going to fill that in on your calendar. Not goals. We're not putting goals on the calendar. You're shaping the structure. You're coloring the whole year. When you color code the year first, before you set goals, you create a rhythm you can actually sustain. I personally don't like to use colored pens and stickers. I actually like to use simple taps so the calendar doesn't feel messy. That gets in the way of my creative thinking and my vision. I want it to feel clean and spacious, and if I have a messy calendar, it makes the next year feel messy. So I have awful handwriting, so the best way I've found to do this is to use the colored tabs and use those on the actual calendar, and I will show you exactly in the lesson what tabs I use and different color coding systems. Ultimately, what you'll end up with is a color-coded year. And after you've color coded the year and you step back and look at it, that's where something unexpected begins to happen. You've stretched your imagination, you expanded. Your whole body shifts from being in surviving the year to designing a year. That is the rainbow effect. Your imagination just unlocking, your clarity returning, your life beginning to organize around who you're becoming, who you want to be. Now, in the full lesson, I take you through this step in real time so you can see exactly how this process works and experience that clarity for yourself. But ultimately, it's not a complicated process. This ritual that I do every year is simple, but don't let that fool you. It's the difference between repeating another year of overwhelm and intentionally creating your ideal year with confidence and clarity and passion. Now, if you want the full work through, the whole lesson, the complete step-by-step color framework, the questions, the guided color-coded mapping, the whole annual ritual, then you'll find it below in the link, Plan Your Best Year in Under an Hour, in the description below. I want to gift it to you because I want you to experience the full rainbow effect. Because when your imagination lights up and you can finally see your life in full color, your time becomes something different. You see it as an investment, a way of showing up for the future you're stepping into. It's a ritual that is going to reconnect you with what's important and your brilliance. And that's exactly why I created Your Breakthrough Year, a course, not as another planning system, but as a way to actually transform how you think, plan, and lead your life. And focus on creating each year as a breakthrough year to the next chapter, the next milestone of growth, rather than just creating a wish list of goals that you're not really invested in, or you haven't truly looked at how you're going to create the space to achieve them. When you approach your year and your annual planning as every year being a breakthrough year, it changes everything. And the color-coded planning ritual that I share with you in the link below is one of the foundational pieces of that program. Now, when you understand this, everything changes. That moment, oh my gosh, when you step back and you see your calendar differently, when your desires, your passion wakes up again, when your vision starts coming into focus, that's the rainbow effect. And it's the beginning of your ideal year. Most people don't create change unless they have a wake-up call, a dramatic event. But when you start planning your life and business with intention, even in small ways, your year is going to start falling into place. This year that you're in right now, your energy is going to start to lift, your clarity returns, your results are going to start to compound. And when that consistency builds, everything expands. You've got more follow through, you have more finished projects, you've got more confidence because you have more room to breathe because you've designed an ideal year. You've taken the time to look at creating the space for your greatness, and more opportunities are going to show up seemingly out of nowhere. This is what happens when you begin designing your year instead of surviving it. But here's the truth. Most people never even get to that point, not because they're not smart, not because they're not capable of unleashing and unlocking their imagination, but because they run into the same two roadblocks over and over again. They feel like everyone around them is moving forward, but they just don't know what to focus on, and they keep shifting their focus. And they feel like everyone else has some clarity, some magical ability to know exactly what to work on next. and yet they feel stuck juggling 50 million ideas and they have no clear direction. The second thing that seems to get in people's way is they feel like they don't have time to figure things out. You're already stretched thin. I get that. You're already trying to keep your business, your clients, and your life all running. The idea of creating a whole strategic year, forget it. Who has that kind of time? And if you're feeling scattered, burned out, or constantly behind, or if your days feel like one long string of reacting instead of creating, this simple ritual is going to feel like an exhale. In the lesson, I'll show you how to take the next 12 months and organize them in a way that is going to protect your creative energy and your physical, vibrant energy. It's going to expand your revenue, clear your mind, create breathing space, and reactivate your creativity. It's going to reconnect you with what you actually want. This ritual helps you build a year that makes sense visually, emotionally, and strategically. And it does it at lightning speed. Now, I don't know your exact goals or schedules, but here's what I do know. If you're struggling to plan your next week and stick to your to-do list, you definitely don't have time to keep repeating years again that don't feel aligned. And if you've been craving clarity, momentum, or structure, you're going to love this simple process because this ritual becomes your shortcut to knowing what matters most, what can wait, what belongs on your calendar, and what doesn't, and what doesn't belong in your life at all. Think of building your ideal year like taking the express elevator to the life, business, and results that you want. And this color-coded planning ritual, it's the secret doorway that gets you onto the elevator without spending weeks figuring out what your goals and priorities should be. You're not even thinking about goals at this point. This training is part of the full program, your breakthrough year, and it's in there because it helps you see your time clearly, invest it wisely, and turn your vision into a plan then that you can execute. I'm linking this lesson for you below because once you see how easy it is to design your year with intention, everything changes. Your imagination lights up, your passion wakes back up, and your weeks stop feeling like emergencies and start feeling like momentum. You step into your brilliance. You get to do the work you love. You can access Plan Your Best Year in under an hour through the link in the description below, and I'll see you inside and we'll design your ideal year color-coded together.